Hi, welcome to class. The first thing we talked about today in class is please don't forget your questions of the day. I also kind of warned people that I'm getting a lot of students who are working ahead, which I love to see. However, some of you are so busy trying to work ahead that you're putting answers like, I don't know, or you're leaving things blank because some of the questions I purposely wait till the end of the week because I teach it during the week that if you don't know an answer, especially like Thursday, it's going to ask you about the jizya tax. You are welcome to use Google. That type most of these questions into Google, you can find the answers from that. Or please wait to do it and then ask me during class. Or maybe you'll learn the answer during class. But don't be so quick that I just want to hit turn in, because you're losing points. That if you do lose points, you're welcome to redo it. One of the questions of the day I wanted to go over was 1-6, which is actually Wednesdays, but we don't have class on Wednesday. But I'm seeing a lot of reoccurring answers that are wrong, so I just wanted to make sure I went over it. This question asked, and we had covered this a few weeks ago, which was a good review question, which is why I kind of chose it, that we had talked about the Sunni and the Shia, that the answer I'm looking for is they couldn't decide who should be their leader after Muhammad died. That these two groups of people kind of divided because Muhammad was their leader. He was the one who created Islam. And then when he passed away, people didn't know what to do. So it kind of split into two groups, the Sunni and the Shia. So that was one answer that I was looking for. Answers I was not looking for, I'm getting things like they had different beliefs. Well, that's not necessarily wrong. It's just not specific enough. Or I'm getting a lot of answers saying, oh, they believed in Islam. That is true, but that's not what caused the split. Okay, so the only answer I'm really looking for is they split because they didn't know who would take over once Muhammad died. Okay, so please just make sure you look at that because that question is going to keep popping up. Please look back at previous work. Look at your Sunni and Shia. You can also look this up online to try to find good answers. All right, what we did do in class today, we started going over what is called the jizya tax. We did start off with our warm-up, so please don't forget to do that. You lose points if you don't do it. We talked in class, what would make you change your beliefs or opinions? So some students had shared things such as, people that present evidence, that if you're in an argument and they don't have opinions and give you evidence, people change. Some people talked about, in my last class, if things were good or bad, that if they had good morals, they might convert. And the reason I asked that question, so please make sure you come up with your own answer. I'm not looking for anything too difficult for that, is today's class period, we're going to talk about this thing called the jizya tax. The jizya tax in history was kind of a very historical thing because it was a way to convert people to Muslim. That in this time period, many Muslim communities were taking over other countries. So when they started to take over these other countries, they didn't want to force people into the religion, which is very historic because usually when people take over, they force you to believe in things, they force you into their religion. But many Muslims didn't believe in doing that. But what they did believe in was this thing called the jizya tax. So how we do this, in this box, you look at the slideshow. There are 5 sources. You are to read the source and pull out one sentence that you think explains how does the jizya tax help convert people. So you kind of want to ask yourself when you read it that how is this an example of how it would help influence people to convert? Okay. So for the first one they pulled out, I believe it was the first sentence, that imposed on them, meaning Christians, a tax, jizya, to the extent that they can bear, meaning not too expensive, and then divide the proceeds among the Muslims. What that is saying in that quote was that jizya is a tax where they would tax people that were not Muslims. So usually in this time period, it meant Christians. That they would tax Christians, and then they would take that money and give it to Muslims. So reasoning. Now, this is your own personal opinion. The reason that would influence someone to convert was because people don't want to have to pay taxes. That's true even today. That if you become Muslim, So that is the first thing, that people don't want to pay taxes, so they're going to convert. And then if you become Muslim, you get that money, that taxes that other people are paying. So you make a lot of money if you convert. So that was probably our biggest example. Number two, most people in the class had picked, if a Muslim leader did not provide his subjects with adequate security, he was obliged to refund the tax. And this one was kind of tricky, and we had a lengthy conversation in class about it. This is saying that if you pay the tax, meaning you're Christian and you pay it, you were offered protection. So that was kind of the exchange, which was super important, that you were not Muslim, but you got protected. But if they didn't protect you, you got your money back. In the source, if you go to the actual source, it gives you an example of when that actually did happen, that this really did happen in Syria. That converts people because of the fairness and kindness, that people are going to look at Muslims and think, wow, they have really good leadership that they uphold to this contract, and people are going to convert. I gave the example, it's kind of similar to America, that many people flee to America from other countries because they like our government, because our government protects people. So a lot of people are going to convert to being Muslim because of that kindness and fairness. Source 3, if they refuse to accept Islam, demand from them the jizya. If they agree to pay, accept it from, and hold off hands if they refuse to pay the tax. Again, and if you're confused where I'm getting these sentences, if you go on the slideshow, and that one was actually highlighted for you, that you can copy and paste that sentence. So things that the classmates, your classmates had stated, that again, people don't want to pay a tax, but they also don't want to fight. That this whole source is talking about that if people refuse to pay the tax, they had to basically go to war. Sorry, my phone is ringing. That people aren't going to like those two options. So if you didn't like those two options, you don't want to pay, but you don't want to go to war, you're going to convert. So that was actually number 3, was probably a big one, that's really going to force people into converting. Number 4, again, if you go to the slideshow, this one is also slightly highlighted for you, that if we manage to protect you, then we get the jizya, meaning the tax. Again, this is similar to source 2, that they needed protection, that people needed that in that time period. So by offering protection, a lot of people are going to convert. That safety is always a number 1 priority. Number 5 is a longer sentence. There's only 2 sentences in this one, and the first one is probably the longest, so you can copy that. So source 5 is talking about that when they got taken over, that many of these Christians had huge leadership roles, that they were politicians, they were military officers, that if they converted to Muslim, they had a chance to become a ruler or become a part of the ruling class. So many people are going to convert because of that, because they're given job opportunities. This is very rare in history to see that, because this requires a lot of trust. For you to take over your enemy and then give them their job back, that's saying, hey, you lost the war, but we're still going to make you commander-in-chief. That was kind of a big deal for people. So a lot of people are going to convert. So lastly, and I sound like a broken record for saying this last part is probably the part that is worth the most points. So yes, it's nice and easy that you can copy stuff from me on this page. So if you want to hit pause to see what I have written, you can. This bottom part is on you. This is a mastery grade. So if you do anything in this class, this is probably the biggest part you have to do. Write a paragraph explaining what is the jizya tax and how does it help convert non-believers. That is essentially everything that we just did. It's mostly the reasoning side. That what is the jizya tax? How does it help convert people? Lastly, if you want to add a sentence or two, that do you like this policy? That do you think this would work? Do you think it'd work now? That if we started taxing people to influence people to convert to different religion, do you think it would work? Obviously, support with evidence. Okay. That is it. On Thursday, we will go over the other assignment, how did division help caliphates? But please make sure you do that bottom part. That is it for today. All right, bye.